There is no power greater than focus. It is not your time that determines your transformation, it is your attention. The average man believes his results are the sum of what he does. The truth is far more exact. Your results are the reflection of what you focus on most often, most intensely, and most emotionally. Every day, the world tries to divide your attention through noise, distraction, and trivial pursuits. And every day you must decide whether you will be a man of reaction or a man of intention. Because your mind, like a lens, can either scatter or concentrate the energy of your life. The man whose thoughts drift like leaves in the wind becomes a slave to circumstance. But the man who learns to discipline his focus bends circumstance to his will. What you focus on expands. This is not a metaphor, it is a law. You focus on problems, your problems multiply. You focus on lack, your poverty deepens. You focus on fear, and fear becomes your master. But shift your focus even slightly, and the entire fabric of your life begins to change. You begin to see new opportunities, new strength, new direction, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The world you experience is filtered through your mental lens, and that lens is made up of your focus. What do you see when you look at your life? Do you see what's missing or what's possible? Do you dwell on obstacles or do you train your eyes to see solutions? Do you rehearse failure or do you meditate on the man you are becoming? You must choose, because you cannot hold two dominant focuses at once. You cannot think about winning while dwelling in doubt. You cannot dream of freedom while staring at your chains. You cannot reach for growth while staring backward at what you've lost. You must shift your focus fully, finally, permanently from the man you were to the man you are becoming. And that shift, that single shift, will change everything. Now, let us go deeper. Focus is not simply attention. It is intention-directed awareness. It is the act of deciding every moment where your energy goes and therefore where your life goes. Most men allow their focus to be dictated by habit, by emotion, or by the opinions of others. But the successful man chooses his focus with the same precision a sculptor chooses his neck strike. He understands every thought he entertains is a chisel stroke, and his life is the sculpture. The power of your focus lies in this. What you give energy to, you give life to. If you focus on your weaknesses, they will grow. If you focus on your fears, they will dominate you. If you focus on the reasons you might fail, you will. But if you focus on your purpose clearly, repeatedly, with emotional intensity, then that purpose begins to attract the resources, people, and conditions necessary for its realization. This is not superstition. This is focus functioning as a magnet. It is one of the hidden keys behind all great achievement. Every man who has ever created anything of lasting value began with a mind so focused, so narrowed, so intense, that the outside world could not pull him away from his vision. He was obsessed, not casually interested. An obsession is not madness, it is alignment. It is what happens when every part of you, your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, your imagination, is centered on a single direction. That direction becomes your identity. And identity determines destiny. If you wish to transform your life, you must begin by transforming your focus. Let me show you how. Step 1. Decide what you want, not vaguely, not someday, clearly, with precision. Write it down, describe it, define it, make it vivid. A man cannot focus on what he cannot see. And most men wander aimlessly, not because they are lazy, but because their vision is blurred. You must give your mind a target. Otherwise, it will be hijacked by whatever stimulus is most convenient. Once you define what you want, step 2. Focus on it daily. Speak it aloud. Meditate on it. Visualize it. Write it again and again until it etches itself into your subconscious. Why? Because the subconscious is your assistant, it cannot focus for you, but it can reinforce what you choose to focus on. And once your focus becomes subconscious, it becomes automatic. Your habits change. Your choices change. Your environment changes. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're thinking differently. Step 3, eliminate distractions. You cannot focus on the life you want while surrounded by the noise of the life you're trying to leave. Distractions are not harmless. They are thieves. They steal your attention, your energy, your future. Cut them off. Turn off the noise. Walk away from low-value conversations. Disconnect from what pulls your mind into fear, gossip, comparison, or confusion. And reconnect with your mission. Let your focus be the sharpest weapon in your arsenal. Because the man who can focus in a distracted world becomes dangerous, he becomes rare, and the rare are always rewarded. But it will not come easily. You will be tested. Life will offer you detours disguised as opportunities. People will tempt you with shortcuts, empty praise, and comfortable lies. But do not stray. Keep your focus locked. Ask yourself this question every day. Does this move me closer to the man I intend to become, or does it delay my transformation? And if the answer is not clear, say no. No to distractions. No to mediocrity. No to anything that fractures your focus. Because every yes must be protected with 1,000 no's. You are not just shaping your habits, you are shaping your mental environment. And your mental environment must become sacred. Sacred means intentional. Sacred means chosen. Sacred means protected from the noise of the ordinary. The world will try to dilute your focus. Because focused men cannot be controlled, they do not react to trends. They do not fall into emotional traps. They move with vision. They move with order. They move with the kind of energy that reshapes circumstances, not the other way around. This is why your focus is your power. And this is why the man who learns to shift his focus shifts his destiny. Let me tell you what happens the moment you commit to focus. Your doubts begin to dissolve. Your fatigue starts to fade. Your procrastination loses its grip. Because distraction feeds off confusion, but focus feeds off clarity. And clarity gives you momentum. Once you're in motion, focus turns from discipline into a state of being. You don't have to force it. You become it. And that's when the world starts to notice. You walk into rooms differently. You speak with more certainty. You start to see beyond temporary problems. Why? Because your mind is no longer scattered, it is ordered. You no longer waste energy fighting battles that don't matter. You conserve your willpower. You channel your hours. You simplify your strategy. Because your life has become a reflection of a focused man. This is the path of the uncommon. This is the difference between drifting and designing. Between waiting and building. Between hoping and commanding your future. If you want to know how to transform your life, the answer is not do more. The answer is focus better. Because when your focus is locked in, everything else aligns. You begin to attract people who match your values. You begin to sense opportunities before they're visible to others. You begin to expect growth rather than worry about survival. That expectation becomes your atmosphere. And your atmosphere creates your outcomes. All of this begins with focus. And focus begins with a decision. Right now, so decide. What will you focus on? What will you ignore? What will you build? Because you're building something, whether you know it or not. And if your focus is scattered, your life will reflect it. But if your focus is sharp, you will cut through everything that once held you back. What you build with focus, you keep with persistence. The average man shifts his focus when things get hard. The successful man narrows his focus when things get hard. Difficulty is not a sign to retreat. It is a signal to double down, because resistance is not your enemy. It is confirmation that you're moving in the right direction. Understand this. Most people never experience transformation because they never hold their focus long enough for the process to complete itself. They shift focus at the first sign of delay. They move on when they don't feel motivated. They listen to a dozen voices, 100 distractions, and they end up nowhere. But the man who stays fixed, who holds the line, who repeats his vision daily, who continues to act in faith even when the world offers no evidence, that man is unstoppable. Why? Because the world is shaped by those who learn to control what they choose to see. And that is what focus really is, the ability to choose your interpretation. A man with weak focus sees only his problems. A man with strong focus sees the possibility inside the problem. One lives in reaction. The other lives in creation. Which one are you? Because if you're not creating, you're reacting. And if you're reacting, you are controlled by moods, by media, by momentum you didn't choose. That is not power. Power begins the moment you say, I choose to focus only on what I can influence, and I choose to influence it completely. That mindset is magnetic. The man who focuses on solutions starts to see more of them. The man who looks for greatness in himself becomes the man who develops it. The man who speaks with focused belief creates an energy field that repels fear and attracts courage. Your focus creates your frequency, and your frequency attracts your future. This is no longer just a motivational idea. It is the mechanism of transformation. Your subconscious mind cannot ignore what you consistently focus on. It begins to restructure your reality to match what it sees as truth. And truth, to your subconscious, is what is repeated with emotion and certainty. You can tell your mind, I want success all day long. But if you're constantly focused on how far you have to go, how uncertain the outcome is, how slow the process feels, then that is what your subconscious will believe. It will not deliver what you wish for. It will deliver what you dwell on. And what you dwell on becomes what you live. So ask yourself, what has been dominating your attention? Your excuses or your solutions? Your fears or your future? The people who doubted you or the vision that drives you? The shift begins by taking radical ownership of your inner dialogue. Because your thoughts are not private, they are instructions. Every time you speak to yourself in limitation, you hand your focus over to mediocrity. But when you say, this challenge is making me stronger, your focus changes. When you say, this delay is preparing me, your perspective sharpens. When you say, this setback is not final, your energy elevates. And as your energy elevates, your actions follow. You become resilient, focused, certain. You begin to attract what matches your elevated state. Not because the world changed, but because you chose to see it through the lens of power. Now, let me make this clear. This shift is not instant. You have years of habitual focus working against you. The average man has been trained to see what's wrong, what's broken, what's missing. You must train yourself to see what's working, what's possible, what's already in motion. This is mental fitness. It is focus under pressure, and it must be built. How? By creating focus rituals. Every morning before the noise of the world enters, ask yourself, what matters most today? Not what's urgent, not what's popular, what matters. Write it down, speak it aloud, feel it until it becomes more real than the distractions calling your name. Then move with purpose, with discipline, with attention on the one thing that makes all other things easier or unnecessary. This is how you build momentum. Not by doing more, but by doing what matters more often. And each day you do this, your ability to focus will sharpen. Your mind will become quiet, not because there's no noise, but because you've learned to ignore it. That stillness is not passivity. It is power, concentrated. Because now, your energy is no longer scattered across a dozen concerns. It is pointed, directed, sharp. Like a laser, it cuts through confusion and carves a path toward progress. But do not mistake this process for ease. Focus requires sacrifice. You must give up your addiction to constant stimulation. You must say no to the temptation to check, scroll, compare. You must abandon the need to be everywhere, do everything, impress everyone. Because true focus demands that you disappoint the many in order to fulfill the vision for the one man you are becoming. And you cannot become him while trying to entertain the world. You must disconnect to reconnect with your values, your mission, your voice. This is where transformation begins. Not in sudden events, but in sustained focus over time. And time, when paired with focus, becomes a force of compounding power. 1 hour of focused effort is worth 10 hours of distracted motion. 1 month of focused belief is worth years of scattered desire. 1 year of living with unwavering focus on your ideal life can create results most never see in a lifetime. Because most men are not willing to focus for that long. They want results without discipline. They want success without sacrifice. They want transformation without tension. But you know better. You know that tension is the proof of growth. That sacrifice is the entry fee for elevation. That focus is the foundation of freedom. And freedom, true freedom, comes from mastery of your attention. Once you master your attention, you master your decisions. Once you master your decisions, you master your direction. Once you master your direction, you master your destiny. It always begins with focus, not with luck, not with talent, not with waiting for conditions to be perfect, but with the daily, deliberate, often uncelebrated choice to remain locked on what matters most. And when you do, you become a different man. A man who walks into rooms with presence, not noise. A man who speaks with clarity, not confusion. A man who builds without broadcasting, who moves with purpose, who lives with vision. And that man, he cannot be stopped. Not by delay, not by distraction, not by difficulty, because he has trained his mind to see through the chaos, to find the one thing, and to work the one thing until it yields. That is the art of transformation. It is not glamorous, it is not always exciting, but it is predictable, because focused effort compounds. Each day you remain aligned builds momentum that multiplies in the background. And then, one day, the world sees your breakthrough and calls it sudden. But you will know it was earned. It was constructed with focus, forged in solitude, fueled by belief. It was the result of a decision you made and never broke. The decision to shift your focus, and in doing so, shift your life forever. Let me now give you the greatest truth of all. Your life is not changed by chance, it is changed by choice. And your most powerful choice is where you place your focus. You do not control every event in your life. You do not control the behavior of others, but you do control what you choose to give your attention to. This alone separates the man who rises from the man who waits. Your focus is the director of your destiny. It is the mental hand that guides the wheel of fortune or misfortune depending on how you use it. Now, understand this. The law of attraction, the law of growth, the law of compensation all respond to one thing first: your dominant focus. If your focus is lack, you create more lack. If your focus is fear, you create more things to fear. If your focus is resentment, anger, confusion, your energy draws more confusion into your field. But if your focus is strength, expansion, gratitude, clarity, then life begins to reflect those same qualities. It is not mystical, it is lawful. Because what you dwell on, you reinforce. What you reinforce, you feel. What you feel, you act on. And what you act on, you attract. So the man who disciplines his focus, disciplines his entire life, that man is powerful. But most men never reach this level of mastery. Why? Because they confuse focus with obsession. They confuse simplicity with sacrifice. They confuse stillness with weakness. But let me assure you, there is nothing stronger than the man who knows exactly who he is, exactly where he's going, and exactly what he must ignore to get there. Focus is a filter. It is not just about what you do. It is about what you refuse to entertain. You must refuse to let old patterns steal your gaze. You must refuse to let other people's chaos become your crisis. You must refuse to let petty noise derail the building of your legacy. And you do this by holding the vision longer than the discomfort. Discomfort is temporary, but your vision, that is eternal. It was placed in your heart for a reason. And every time you focus on it with faith, you increase its magnetic pull. The world rearranges for the man who holds his focus through storms. You may be mocked. You may be doubted. You may even be misunderstood. But none of that matters. What matters is consistency of attention. Because attention turns into belief. Belief turns into conviction. And conviction turns into undeniable results. You see, most people cannot maintain attention for more than a few minutes. They chase dopamine instead of destiny. They trade focus for frenzy. But not you. You are not here to blend in. You are here to build with intention. And intention requires stillness. It requires clarity. It requires the courage to say, this is the man I'm becoming, and everything that does not match this must fall away. And fall away it will. You will lose distractions. You will lose noise. You may lose people. But what you gain is alignment, and alignment is the space where focus becomes effortless. It is not something you force, it becomes something you are. This is the shift we've been speaking of. A shift from external pressure to internal alignment. From passive hope to active command. From distraction to decision. That shift happens in your mind. It happens the moment you say, I no longer chase everything, I direct everything. I no longer entertain confusion, I decide quickly, and I move. I no longer consume anything that dims my clarity. I protect my vision above all. And when you live like this, the transformation is not slow. It is rapid. Not because the world is moving faster, but because you are no longer holding yourself back. And this is what I want you to take with you. Every result in your life began with a moment of focus. Every failure, a focus on fear. Every success, a focus on faith. Every delay, a focus on doubt. Every breakthrough, a focus on decision. You hold the key, and that key is in your mind, not in the world, not in the economy, not in the opinions of others. It is in your ability to focus so fully that doubt dies in the presence of your certainty. Do not wait another day. Do not ask permission. Do not wonder whether you are ready. You are ready the moment you focus like you are. So begin. Right now, focus on who you are becoming. See him clearly. Walk like him. Think like him. Speak like him. Let that image consume your attention so completely that everything else fades into irrelevance. That is the secret. The more clearly you see him, the more you become him. Because your mind moves in the direction of your dominant image. If you feed your mind chaos, your life will reflect chaos. But if you feed your mind a picture of power, purpose, and discipline, your life will obey that picture. That is the divine machinery of the subconscious mind. It obeys the focus of the conscious man, and it does not require miracles. It requires repetition. Repetition of the right thoughts, the right beliefs, the right vision, every day, especially when no one is watching, especially when nothing seems to be changing. Because the subconscious does not respond to speed, it responds to consistency. So let your new focus be your daily ritual. Let it shape your words. Let it filter your actions. Let it determine what you read, what you watch, what you tolerate. Let it raise your standards so high that the old you suffocates in the atmosphere of your evolution. That is what it means to transform. Not to be inspired, but to be reconstructed through mental precision. You are reconstructing yourself now. You are not escaping your old life, you are outgrowing it. And you outgrow it not through chaos, but through clarity. Through the quiet, non-negotiable decision that from this day forward, my focus is mine, and with it, I will build a future that cannot be denied. Hold that, live that, and I promise you, transformation will not be a question of if, only of when. Because the man who lives with unwavering focus becomes a force too powerful to ignore. And that man is who you've always been. Now go become him